Hello everyone, Greater J1 here. I am back playing Heroes vs Roblox Star Wars Heroes vs Villains. So I'm also doing a guide now, which I haven't done for 5 years. So I'm going to do a personal favourite character of mine to play, Baylan's Skoll. I don't often see Baylan get used, and I often see his users use his worst abilities and don't really use him how he should be used. So today I shall break down Baylan, from how to unlock him, what his stats are, to his ability list, to my suggested abilities and skins, to what role he plays in battle, to strategies and tips, to heroes to look out for, and we'll finish up the video with me explaining where I've been surrounding this game. So then let's begin. With how to unlock Baylan. So to unlock him, you need to get 15 kills with Sabine Wren and 15 kills with Ahsoka Tano. You also unlock Shin Hati with Baylan's Skoll, so you get 2 for 1. So, stats. Let's begin with them. Baylan's damage starts at 25 for his first 2 strikes, with his final strike being 30 damage. Overall, pretty average for that. Its health comes out on the higher end at 200. His speed is 22 studs, which is only 1 speed below average. His stamina is 140, which is only 10 above average. His jump is 65 studs, which is around about average. And when parried, he's parried for 1 second, which is below the average time. He has one of the slowest swing speeds in the game, with his final swing being the longest basic attack in the game, lasting roughly 2 or 3 seconds. It comes with an ability and a special ability. His first ability is Rock Throw. He creates a rock from the ground with the force before throwing it as far as 20 studs away at his opponent, dealing 45 damage that goes through blocks. It deals 1 less damage on how many studs away the opponent is from the rock's impact, which is also a fairly small impact as it is. It works similarly to Kit Fisto's Force Orb, however, unlike the Force Orb, it is impacted by gravity as it will drop down on its travel. Its cooldown is 13 seconds. And his special ability is Block Breaker. Baylan will extend out his fist and disable an enemy's block for a short time. This only works if they are blocking, and it will deal 5 damage if they are blocking and 15 if they aren't. Its cooldown is 15 seconds and you basically have to be right up in their face for it to work. Now, for his ability list, he comes with a small array of abilities that you can buy outside his default ones. These other abilities are Push, Choke and Crush. And he also has 2 other specials, having a Heavy Strike and a Counter. Now, what are my suggested abilities? Well, Baylan's default abilities are arguably the worst default abilities in the game, or at least among the worst default abilities in the game. They all sound pretty good on paper, but in practice, Rock Throw has a little range, doesn't really deal a ton of damage, and it just doesn't necessarily pay off. And Block Breaker requires you to get right up close to your enemy, to which you can just parry your opponents or stagger them by kicking them, by playing another character who can swing much faster than Baylan. And also, your opponent could also just as easily kick you. So my chosen abilities are this. For my main ability, I use Crush. It grabs people within 30 studs away from you, lifting them into the air, dealing 35 damage before throwing them to the side. You can't move while using this ability, and its animation is on the longer side, taking 2 seconds. But it is a very good ability, and its long animation is still shorter than Choke or Retribution. It is great for following up with an attack, as it doesn't throw them far, and it leaves enemies open to attacks from your team while they are held in the air. Its cooldown is 10 seconds. my chosen special ability is Heavy Strike. The great thing about Heavy Strike is that it goes through blocks and can't be parried, which is a great thing to have in this game. Though it does slow your walk speed by 8, so if you're trying to pursue someone and use this attack, it doesn't necessarily work out. But if you're in a more direct combat, it usually doesn't matter. And the damage anyway is pretty much instant as soon as the blade hits the opponent. The damage is 41 to enemies who aren't blocking and 33 to ones who are. The cooldown is 14 or 15 seconds. Now to my suggested skin, and this is actually something that can really matter in heroes versus villains. Baylan Skoll has a skin called Knight, which switches his lightsaber to cyan. I suggest using this skin as it can make you trick enemies into thinking you're an ally in a crowded fight, or not immediately attack you. Now to character role. Now, these are the 4 roles. Attacker, a character who isn't necessarily as strong, but is pretty effective in dealing damage and leading the battle. A defender, a character who is better at playing defense and especially defending the team. Tank, someone who has high health and is incredibly strong and usually can kind of just decimate enemies. And then we have support, someone who isn't as strong as the other roles and generally can't really handle themselves like the other roles, but can prove a great support to their team, letting them take opportunities that a supporter can open up for them, or just make the battle easier for them. I'd categorise Baylan as being a supporter and an attacker. I'd say support due to his generally slow swing speed, and not really being as great in crowded situations. I also say attacker as being aggressive is generally the way to play him. So then into the strategies. So this is the most important thing. Now the general stuff is to just not attack someone who is blocking and to generally block before pressing the attack on a melee user, so you can try and base an attack from them, parry them and then attack while jumping up. That is all pretty standard for any saber hero. But you are interested in stuff especially dedicated to Baylan, so let's get into that. Generally, I suggest to not swing spam as Baylan. While his 3rd basic swing deals the most damage of his 3 basic swings, it is the longest basic swing in the game, and it only deals damage to an opponent once, rather than constantly dealing damage like Flamethrower. You also can't block when using that 3rd swing, so you are open to multiple attacks while you can only deal 30 damage. I suggest swinging once or twice and waiting a second or 2 to swing again, as that 3rd strike leaves you extremely exposed. If you do or must use that 3rd strike, I suggest backing away once you deal that damage, or start jumping up. Maybe also backing up as well, once you deal that damage, if you can. Also, due to how slow Baylan swings, he's extremely easy to parry, especially on that 3rd basic attack, so it is important to be decisive on when you press the attack and when you hold the defense. Now, Baylan isn't necessarily a character who can lead the team, he just doesn't have the agility or range to. Yes, his health pool is among the highest in the game, but his slow swings and average damage doesn't really let him lead a charge, nor can he get in and out of a situation like the Inquisitors or basically any other character who is faster than him. He's on the slower side. Instead, he's best to be more supportive and assist his team rather than lead it. Use his Force Crush to expose enemies to your team so they can get some free attacks, or just throw those enemies off the map, and use your Heavy Strike to penetrate blocks on particularly defensive opponents, or to finish off enemies. Of course, if you have to, or if it will benefit you, lead the charge. which is his best to not be a targeted figure or the one who is taking the most damage in most cases. And especially with Baylan, he doesn't have the capabilities to deal with that. And that extra health he has goes quick. He isn't like Phaser where he can take lots of damage, as his abilities just really don't match Phaser's. In a 1v1 situation, Baylan can struggle. If the opponent is a slower hero such as Kanan or Mace Windu, Baylan has a solid chance of beating them. But if they are a faster hero such as Cal Kestis or Ahsoka, Baylan is going to struggle. Again, he doesn't have the speed or, ironically, the strength to properly counter them. However, Baylan can struggle against characters with a kick or crush. Again, that high health he has goes quick and he can't really keep up with more agile characters. But it isn't impossible to defeat them, it's just extremely difficult to. And also, kick and crush, their typical abilities you really do not want to get caught in anyway. I personally have a combo I do with Baylan, which is Force Crush the opponent and follow up while sprinting at them with a heavy strike. Basically doing 2 strikes worth of damage with my lightsaber in 1 strike of my lightsaber, while also making sure they can't block it even if they raise it. Though given heavy strike can be vital in some situations, I don't suggest always doing this. His swings in general are also just fairly mid for the parry and attack as they start to jump technique, which is arguably one of, if not the best way to parry and riposte in this game. The animations for some characters just generally don't lend well to this technique, and while Baylan has some decent animations for this technique, due to his slow swing speed, he can often struggle trying to pull off this technique. How many times did I say technique then? 3. Or maybe more. So the most important thing to do with Baylan is to just choose the right abilities, since his default abilities are completely rubbish. While Crush and Heavy Strike work extremely well for me, and have given me the best results, you may prefer other abilities to Baylan. At the end of the day, design Baylan to your preferences. What I always suggest when choosing abilities and special abilities for melee users are these things. Does it have range, such as lightsaber throw? Can it get enemies off you, stop them from retreating or leave them exposed, such as push, pull or crush as a couple of examples? Does it penetrate your enemy's block, such as heavy strike or kick? Can it get you in and out of a situation like Enfys Nest's rocket boots or the Inquisitor's whirlwinds? If the answer to those are yes, I suggest picking them. My common picks would be pull, crush and saber throw for your main ability, and heavy strike or kick for your special. Though I'd say whirlwinds and rocket boots should take greater precedence over heavy strike and kick. Now onto the heroes to look out for. I will give you 3 to look out for and be careful facing. Baylan's greatest struggle is by far fast characters. Ahsoka Tano is a real struggle for any hero for any character if she has Saber Rush. Saber Rush gives Ahsoka the fastest swings in the game, and she also can't be parried while using Saber Rush. It allows her to melt enemy villains, or at least melt their stamina while they try to block. Only attack Ahsoka when she has Saber Rush active if you are at full health or close to it, and she's below half health. You'll take a lot of damage, but you can actually win that fight. Next up is currently the most powerful character in the game by far, Cal Kestis. Cal Kestis is a really common hero to see out in the battle at the moment, and every Cal Kestis runs kick. Kick penetrates blocks and staggers you, and given Baylan hasn't really got any range, this means Cal is quite deadly to him, especially since he can get off 2 swings after he staggers you with his kick, while most characters can only get off 1 swing. It is important to not face Cal head on at the moment, as any character without the assistance of your team can't really stand up to him, at least not without being left at very low health. And finally is Ayla Secura of all characters. Ada isn't so much a trouble to Baylan as she is a nuisance, but she's enough of a nuisance to be a problem. She's faster than Baylan, so chasing her isn't really an option. Yet an Ayla with decent abilities can have the strength to take Baylan out. It is tough as you can't really ignore Ayla as she will likely chase you, and you can't really chase her as she'll just run. At that point, just stick to your team and let Ayla come to you. Now, kind of speaking more generally, I know I said 3 characters, but this is more general. More generally is blaster users. Baylan's slow swings are pretty significant in lightsaber combat, but it isn't a huge problem. But it is very significant and can be a huge problem when fighting non-saber users, because if you fail to hit them with your slow swing, it is likely to cost Baylan far more than other characters due to his slow swings. He can't get another swing in for a good while after he uses one swing. And due to his very short range, if you can't get close enough, it can be problematic. Also, not to mention the fact that the game has terrible hit detection. You can be right up pressed against an enemy, swinging at them, and it just sometimes will not hit them. So for Baylan, this is an even bigger problem. And that is it. If you have any further questions, I'll be happy to answer them in the comments. Now, as to where I've been surrounding HVV. The first guide I made was on May 28th, 2021. It is private now due to being outdated, but it was a guide on General Grievous. It got 133 views and it kickstarted my guides on HVV. By that point I had already gotten Battlefront 2. I made guides throughout the rest of the year until September 23rd, being my final one being an updated guide on the Grand Inquisitor. That was my 24th guide. By that point I'm fairly sure I was losing interest in the game in favour of Battlefront 2. Definitely by October I had stopped playing the game, only really returning to get the new characters or complete the new objectives. And with the objectives I eventually just kind of gave up on them, given they kept adding them and a lot of them are just getting really difficult to do. And especially since parrying became a mainstream tactic in Heroes vs Villains, it basically just turned me away from any attempt to try and get back into the game again, just so many times. So many times I've tried to get back into the game and I've always kind of been turned off by parrying. I've started getting back into the game recently though, and I've enjoyed it once learning the parrying system. Baylan has quickly become a personal favourite too, so I wanted to make a guide on him, especially since he is hardly used. I've only seen him used a handful of times on my many matches since returning. Will I do more videos and guides? I don't know. I can't promise anything, so we'll have to wait and see. Just don't expect these guides to come out as often as they used to, if I do continue making them. I had also intended to get a Baylan guide out back in 2023 or 2024, when Baylan first came out to HVV, but I just never made it. The information in that original guide is more than likely massively outdated too. I probably would not reflect my current playstyle with Baylan since I started using him. And I'm also and this is also the second time I'm recording the audio for this video because I made some modifications to the script after I recorded it the first time. So the audio you've heard in this video is the second recording of this guide. But yeah, I think that will be it for this video. So, thank you guys for watching, and goodbye.